Extreme weather, such as the recent tropical storm that started out as Cyclone Eloise, is expected or as an unexpected natural disaster, I beg your pardon. Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal and Limpopo have all been hit by heavy rains and wind, and that's according to the South African Weather Service. The extreme weather conditions could last a few more days, we're told, but what is the best way to try prepare for something like this? Well, let's unpack that for you and bring in Emergency Management Services spokesperson Radebe, as well as senior weather forecaster at the South African Weather Services, Puseletso Mofokeng. To both of our guests, thanks very much for your time. Welcome to the AM Report. Nana, I wonder if I can start with you. When an individual hears that there is a cyclone on its way, what is the best way to prioritize how to respond? All right, Nana, it appears we're not able to connect to you at the moment. We'll try re-establish that connection. But Puseletso, I know you can hear me. I do wonder, when we deal with cyclones like this, whether we're getting better at monitoring and picking up that such adverse conditions are on our way. Would you say that we're improving insofar as this is concerned?
Absolutely. Good morning, Ayanda, and good morning to the viewers as well. The science is actually improving year to year. For instance, when it comes to this tropical storm called Eloise, it was actually spoken of 2 weeks before, looking at what Mozambique was issuing. I'm not talking about South Africa. I think in Mozambique, it's more of importance for them because it have the highest impact usually. So they started talking about it last week, Wednesday, on the 25th. There was no sign at the moment at that time. So basically, the science is improving. We caught up with the developments of the storm on Saturday when it was actually developing. And beyond that, we then started issuing messages indicating, especially from Monday last week, we did actually start communicating to the public of South Africa to indicate that there is a very very big storm coming, tropical system called Eloise. So basically, the science is improving, and we are doing quite well. Obviously, the difficult thing with the tropical cyclone is that from time to time it would change the direction slightly. So that is why when you draft its path, you would actually extend the further away you go, you make the possibility of going either way bigger. So, but in any case, we're monitoring it all the time, 24/7 in South Africa, as we're mandated to do so.
Right. And what determines where the storm eventually goes? I mean, I understand there's no way of preempting it, but are we able to learn in hindsight why storms travel the way they do?
Yes. Basically, what happens is that once it has developed, obviously it will need first the warm sea surface temperatures. We normally would need about 26 degrees Celsius. And then from that point, we have to look at the fact that the upper level winds should be very much light. And then those upper level winds are the ones that are controlling where this system is actually going to go. That is why the model should pick up. Obviously, it may not be one model, it will be multi-model, but one model will be much stronger, would actually get the position correct. For example, the ECMWF would generally get the positioning of the storm quite correctly. It may struggle with the intensity or how strong it would be. But in terms of where it will go, normally with the tropical system, it's a very strong model. But I'm not saying other models are not doing well. They are also doing well. It's just that ECMWF actually is 1 degree better.
All right, Nana Radebe is EMS spokesperson, is also joining us in this conversation via our telephone line. Nana, great to have you on the program. Perhaps we can just begin by taking stock of the impact so far of now Storm Eloise. Are you able to help us take stock of this?
Morning to the viewers. Can you just repeat the question?
We're just trying to understand how much damage, if any, has been caused by the storm to your knowledge so far.
We have been very fortunate this time around. In the city of Johannesburg, we have not dealt with any major incidents, as we have seen that it rains and it stops, which gives our systems time to clear. So we've not had any major incidents, fortunately.
Right, and perhaps that's because the storm was forecast in KZN and Mpumalanga and the likes. But Nana, in the past we have seen quite devastating impacts. I mean, when one hears that a storm is on the way, what's the best way to try and respond to that as an ordinary citizen?
As an ordinary citizen, it would be from our side, you'd have to be alerted. We know that most people just take it that rain is coming, but sometimes it's a major storm. So from our side, as soon as we get an alert from the South African Weather Services, they're communicating, would also communicate with communities, which we know that are at high risk at that time, to ensure that they prepare. If you are in a low-lying area, like in Alex, where you have shacks along the Graskay River, those people would have to move to a safer place. And people that are in houses would have to be inside the house and not near trees, and have your candles ready, because we know that when the storms, lights might be out. So we need to be ready with such.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say people should stay in the house. I imagine the situation changes if the storm gets worse and, you find some of the water seeping into your house. I mean, is there a way of responding to that particular challenge where you can realize, okay, there's water seeping in now, the prospects of me surviving in the house isn't that great? What's the best way to respond if one is in that type of context?
In that type of content, if you see that water is coming in, it would be safer for you to get out, because you don't know the level of the water that would come in, and if you'd be able to get out by the time there's more water. We know that most of the people, they are swept away during such times. Hence, we say that if it's an area where we know that the storms will be heavy, you'd need to take precautions. If you are in an area that floods a lot, it's better if you move away and go to a safer place.
Yeah. Puseletso, perhaps I can bring you back into the conversation. Many people have been quick to point out that this particular cyclone was preceded by Cyclone Idai, and many in Mozambique are still reeling from that devastation. Is the time lapse between these two storms anything to worry about? I mean, is there any way of gauging whether this is out of the normal?
Well, I wouldn't say so. Remember, we had tropical storms like Eloise in 2000. We had Japhet in 2003, and I'm not going to mention all of them. We had Giovanna, I think, in 2012. We had Shalan just now in December. So currently we have the Eloise, but it has ended. We are no longer talking about Eloise now. It's over. Basically, what is important is that especially South Africans should actually know where to get the warnings from, or to get because we are actually mandated to be the authoritative voice in South Africa, the only authoritative voice that necessarily issue out extreme weather conditions. No, and no one is allowed. I do understand that even in the current or rather the previous event, there had been a number of people who actually created the messages which were scaring people, which were terrifying people and all that. We are the South African Weather Service. Our mandate is to communicate to the public ahead of time, to indicate to them what is to happen. And therefore, it is important that the people recognize that, the communities, the South African public recognize that we are the authoritative voice. For instance, tropical storms or tropical cyclones are necessarily the international story. So anybody can talk about it, it's fine. But as soon as the storm is in the South African shores, we are necessarily the ones who are to issue the warning to the public. The warnings could happen behind the scenes, maybe one person would have clients, etc. But as it comes to the public, the only authoritative voice is the South African Weather Service. So we communicate both with the media, and they helped us quite a lot this time around. We've been able to pass the message emphatically to the people. We actually use disaster management as well. So another thing that I have to mention before perhaps we move to the next point is that even the level 10 that we have issued over the weekend had been a level that we have reached through the consultation with the disaster management. Obviously, procedurally, we have to consult disaster management when we reach that level 10, which is last level. We haven't reached that level at any point before, but since we started the impact base, especially from September, this is the first time we reached level 10. So we are thankful that the disaster management had been on board. They've been obviously communicating with us. They've been showing us the evidence. And one other thing that we have to give credit to, it is to the media and even to the disaster management, because they managed to actually protect their lives. Very, very important. I haven't heard of anyone who lost their life in South Africa. Perhaps I'm too late. I was too much concentrating on the storm, but we're thankful that nobody had lost their life. Obviously, we understand that some of the houses were necessarily submerged, but those are the things that we can deal afterwards. Disaster management is there to help, and all of them really came on board, and we're thankful.
Yeah. Nana Radebe, I wonder whether the issue that Puseletso raises becomes a matter of particular concern for you, the idea of fake news making the rounds as we try to disseminate legitimate information around the storm. How much of the problem is that for EMS's responses to emergency like this when there is fake news circulating?
It's a major problem when we have fake news going around. That's why we say that people should rather have a message alert, especially from weather services. And we also, as well, do have community stakeholders that we utilize in case there's going to be a storm, that we can directly speak to communities to say that we need to prepare and make sure that those stakeholders, if there are any areas that we can move communities to, we make sure that we deal with NGOs that can accommodate community halls that will accommodate those people that need to be moved.
Yeah, all right. Let me thank you very much for your time. Certainly appreciate both your coming onto the programs. Probably just worth mentioning there that according to some reports which we've received, 4 people did die due to cyclone Eloise in Beria in Mozambique. One of the statements that we have certainly come across. But thank you very much to Nana Radebe. She's the Emergency Medical Services spokesperson, and Puseletso Mofokeng, a senior forecaster with the South African Weather Service. Thanks very much indeed.